Hi, I'm Dr. Pretti-Frontczak, and this is a brief video training on how to create embedded learning opportunities to teach self-regulation skills, and specifically using the PowerPacks app. So you might want to even pause the recording before you get too much further into it and go to prekteachandplay.com/PowerPacks, and you can download the free educational app through iTunes or Google Play, and this will allow you, as I'm walking through how to use the app, you can actually do it right there on your mobile device. So if you want to pause the recording, hop over to prekteachandplay.com/PowerPacks and download the app. Some of you, however, may already have the app, so let's go ahead and get started and talk a little bit about how to use the app to create embedded learning opportunities. And then we'll end out this video training series to talk a little bit about how you can do this kind of old school without needing the app at all. So inside the educational app, we call it PowerPacks, and it's the self-regulation edition. There are 4 categories, 3 levels, and we use 3 evidence-based teaching strategies. And you can learn all about these categories, levels, and strategies once you're inside the app. You can go to the menu and go to About, and you'll read all about how we created the PowerPacks app and what the evidence behind the teaching strategies are, why there are 3 levels, 4 categories, and so forth. But just generally speaking, the 4 categories are sort of a way to cluster the actual prompts that you'll find within the app. And so we wanted things to be somewhat related. So you want to take a look at those categories and then look at your daily interactions. The 3 levels were a way to sort of differentiate or even tier the instructional opportunities, these embedded learning opportunities, by thinking about what is early self-regulation, what does self-regulation look like as it gets more complicated in early childhood, and then what does it look like when children are a little bit older and more able. And then the most important part would be the 3 strategies, and we use self-talk, asking questions, and giving directives. And these are 3 somewhat universal strategies that we can use in early childhood that have a strong evidence base to promote children's development and learning. So really the gist of this app is pretty straightforward. There's several of these slides that you see here. Sometimes we call them cards, sometimes you'll say on your screen, and there's just this little prompt. And so remember, we talked about that there are these 3 strategies. Each card will tell you which strategy is at play. So this one happens to be where we're using self-talk. And for those that are familiar with this strategy, it's this ongoing dialogue that we have aloud so that children hear and we're sort of modeling our thoughts, our ideas, our hypotheses, our feelings, what we're doing in terms of our actions, but we're not really trying to have a conversation. We're not asking them to respond back. We're not telling them what to do. So the self-talk is really this ongoing dialogue of what's going on in our minds and with our actions. And so all of the self-talk cards are just ways that we actually end up modeling our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions that are related to self-regulation. So in this example, we could say, I'm going to play detective and first look for clues. Then I'm going to write down the clues in my notebook. And this really has to do what many of you might know as terms of plan, do, review. This might have what some of you think of in terms of executive functioning skills, where kids will be able to stop before they take action or think about their actions before they take them, understand why they're going to take their actions, and the actual steps that they're going to take to accomplish a task. All of this is a key part of self-regulation. This also happens to be a level 3 prompt. So if you're like, wow, this is really high. A lot of the kids I know wouldn't understand what a detective is. This is a lot of language. It's really a long utterance. That's because it's at level 3, which is what we would think of children who are older or more able in terms of their development and learning. Another example of a card or a prompt that you'll see on your slide as you kind of swish through them is where we can ask questions. This is also a level 3 example. And so we might ask a child or a group of children, how might a friend feel when there aren't enough toys for everyone? And just by asking this very straightforward question, probably one that you've asked in some version or another a million times, we now know that with intentionality, we're actually teaching self-regulation. This happens to get at the element or aspect of self-regulation around perspective taking. And so really understanding how others might feel in a certain situation. Then we can then help children think about what action to take. But this is just giving them an opportunity to stop, think about, consider the perspective of others, and then we can begin to take action. The next example, again, using one of our 3 evidence-based strategies, this is where we give kids directives. Some of you might think of this as a command. Some of you might think of this as telling a kid what to do. Some of you might even think of this as an invitation to engage. And this is a level 2 example, and it said, let's practice taking deep and shallow breaths. So it's not really a demand, like practice breathing deep and shallow, right? It's really about an invitation for kids to take some sort of action or do something. And this practicing of taking deep and shallow breaths is a way that we start to regulate, regain a more neutral state, maintain a more neutral state, even something that we can do in terms of impulse or self-control, which are all aspects of self-regulation. And so the app can be used in a variety of different ways. And again, we'll talk about in just a minute how we can go old school and not worry about having a mobile device, because I know many of you worry about having more screen time. So the idea is that the app provides the caring adult easy access to some ideas. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have the app in the situation or in between you and the children that you're working with. It's really just to, at your fingertips, sort of jumpstart your mind. Give yourself a couple of ideas. For those of you who are going to get ready to make a home visit, you might open up your app and look a few ideas up before you go on the home visit. For those that are doing lesson plans, you might want to just kind of jot down a few of these ideas from the app into your lesson plans. For itinerant providers, these might be things you want to make sure that you model during a visit to a classroom. And so there's lots of different ways to utilize the app without actually having the app in the situation or at the moment that you're interacting or creating the embedded learning opportunity. It could be much more about planning, but it could also be something that kind of changes things up. So if you have a morning meeting or you have some sort of circle time, you might even use one of the prompts to be what the focus of the conversation is for kids. So they can either help swish through the cards and pick one, or you can pick one up front and then use that as your conversation starter during the activity. You can also strengthen the homeschool connection by texting family members some ideas that they can try out over the weekend or over a long break. You can also just put this in your blog or your weekly newsletter of an idea or a tip that any caregiver can implement with relative ease. And then, as I mentioned, if you want to kind of go old school entirely, but you still need something in front of you to help your brain remember what you can do and say to create an embedded learning opportunity, go to prekteachandplay.com/podcast7. So it's prekteachandplay.com/podcast and the number 7, and you can access these printables. And so from the app, we've exported several statements. Again, things you can say, things you can ask, things you can direct children to do or invite children to do. And these can be printed a little more easily than trying to print something from your mobile device. And then you can plant these around the room. You can put them on your clipboard. You can hand them out as you're leaving maybe a family's home, or if you're an itinerant, you're leaving a classroom. It's like, here's your weekly reminder. Here's one thing you can do. So put this on your refrigerator, put this on your mirror, put this on your desk, put this at the calendar area. This is the one thing you can say, the one thing you can ask, the one thing you can invite children to do that will actually create an embedded learning opportunity.